getting some of these deals done ahead of time creates a little bit more flexibility for yourself, where it's like once it gets to the Besser deal, like you know what you have. Like the Horvat trade's done. It's not like teams are trying to like finesse you or get into other conversations. It's like the Horvat deal's done. Now you can like focus on like a Besser deal. Because let's be honest, Lucas, like everyone can just see it as like an easy fix, but you can't make, it's hard to make like 3-4 trades in one day. It really is.
Yeah, yeah. And landing spots dry up.
Yeah, and landing spots dry up. So at the end of the day, like creating this flexibility for yourself and getting 1 or 2 deals well ahead of the deadline. Again, I always make a Leaf comparison, but like I remember back when the Leafs were selling and blowing it up, they got the Phaneuf deal, I think, done pretty well ahead of the deadline, right? It was January, right?
Yep.
So I go back to like an example like that. I think when teams go through these rough patches in a franchise, and the Canucks are in it right now, you can't be just rushing deals at the end of a deadline. Like that's where you make your mistakes. The same thing on July 1st when teams try to rush to sign guys. those are when the mistakes happen. So I don't mind this. I mean, if Canucks fans want to get upset that Rutherford didn't get an additional 2nd round pick, like you weren't going to get much more than that. Maybe it was as I talked about, I saw maybe a 1st, a 2nd, and a prospect being the return for Horvat, like, or a 1st and a couple of good prospects. I mean, they zeroed in on a roster player. Viveiros 25.
Besser, Garland, and Myers next. If you had to rank them, John, I'll give you my ranking after you do. What's your 1, 2, 3 in terms of who's out soonest to furthest?
Yeah, I think so. He didn't include OEL in that. I think the Garland and OEL deals, if they were to happen, are more off season. Why I say that is not even just the contracts itself. I mean, Garland's had more of a down year, and obviously OEL has the struggles, but Tocchet coached both of them in Arizona. And I wonder if Tocchet tries to keep those 2 guys around because of the familiarity and because just they're tougher deals to make. So I wonder if they just keep them around. But yeah, I think Besser, Shen, Myers. I think Myers is possible if Aquilini and these Canucks guys can just be willing to retain at least even $2 million off Myers. I'm telling you, this deal can get done. No team's taking, like, I just can't see a team taking on $6 million of Tyler Myers. 3 or $4 million, that's something you can stomach maybe. Because I think a big right shot guy that's playing limited minutes on the third pair in the playoffs, it's not bad if it's a $3 million. $6 million.
And Vancouver would rather do that, John, right, than buy him out and have to pay all that money. Like, you might as well retain the couple mil. I agree completely. What else we got?
Do I think they'll trade Demko? Yeah, Lucas. Yeah. Right now, I mean, let's talk about, because we've talked so many times on this podcast about like goaltenders and value, and I look at the situation with Demko as like, this guy was just like to believe we were talking preseason about this guy being a top 3 or top 5 goalie in the league. Like, I think top 3 we were saying is a hot take. We were solid on top 5 for Demko, right? Yeah. And now we're talking about the guy's been injured for so long and you're just going to toss him away. Like, I truly think Canucks fans should hold their anger for that potential deal unless the Canucks get a haul. Because if they trade Demko fresh off the injury without the value going back up, that's freaking stupid. That is the problem we've had with the Canucks. This dumb lack of asset management. And this would go back to that conversation with the Demko trade. I really don't think they went too poorly here with the Horvat deal, but they'll do it with the Demko deal if they do that.
Yeah. And John, too, you can't trade everybody. I mean, if you think about it, we're naming Bo Horvat, Brock Besser, Tyler Myers, Connor Garland, Thatcher Demko. The list goes on. Luke Shen. I mean, you can't deal everyone off your roster. You still got to keep some pieces. I understand they're trying to do a major makeover, but you still got to keep some pieces. And to your point, Thatcher Demko, his value is obviously low right now. I don't think trading goaltenders, especially in season, is good asset management. I don't think you get the most for those goaltenders. So if they were to move him, I would guess it would be an off-season deal. But even at that point, his value is still going to be low because of this season's performance. I think you got to come back with him in October. I mean, that's where I stand on Thatcher Demko, because I think at his best, like we've said, he could be a top 5 goaltender in the league, in the world, right?
Yeah, and honestly, man, I wonder if a team like Pittsburgh, I know our boy Nick Alberga, I talked about it on the other stream, he actually threw out, he's like, when is Pittsburgh going to trade for Gibson or Demko? And it's like, with all of the connections of former Penguins people in the Vancouver organization now, I don't know.
Interesting.
Because Tocchet's there now, Rutherford's there, Alvin's there, Gonchar's now on the bench with the Canucks. I wonder if the Penguins and Canucks just make a trade in general. I've talked about Besser, I've talked about Demko. I mean, hey, the Penguins have been trying to get value for Kapanen for about a year now. So that's another guy that fits what Rutherford's talked about, right? A guy around his 25 range that hasn't found consistent success with the team. I mean, that's the same thing with Beauvillier. Even though Beauvillier, he's actually scored a couple of big goals for the Islanders in the playoffs. Scored that big goal on Vasilevsky against Tampa. So, like, Beauvillier has shown he has those sparks if they can find more consistency with Vancouver. So, I like the potential of, like, Demko trade next year or in the offseason, but get him his games. Like, if Demko can come back here towards the end of the season, and hey, for fantasy, I've kept him on IR. I've been that patient. I've had a free IR spot, so I've just kept him there. If he can come back and show for a good 10-game stretch that he's still up to that par of a goalie, teams will sauce like quite a few assets for him in the offseason.
But do you even want to do John? But do you even want to do that if you're the Canucks? Like, this trade obviously makes you worse in the short term, the Horvat one. So if you start bottoming out even more now, and you're getting close to those Bedard sweepstakes, buddy, you might want to send Thatcher Demko out of here. Like, for you know what, just stay at home, come back next year. We need to come as far down in the standings as possible.
No, you're right. You know what, and I'll agree with you on that. So I'll take back that part of what I said because that's a good point. But what I will say is that it comes down to the conversation of what you just said. If the Canucks start zeroing in on the Bedard conversation, which, again, I don't know if they are, but if they could zero in on that conversation, then yeah, maybe they're just trading guys away just for the purpose of being bad. But but that's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's truly their mindset, Lucas, because if that was their mindset, to me, Beauvillier's not in this deal, or they're flipping Beauvillier tomorrow, you know? Like, Beauvillier doesn't, like, he's not bad. Like, he'll be a good middle six guy for the Canucks right away. So, I wonder. All right, Lucas, do you want me to send you a quick link and then I'll bring you back?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, yeah, Lucas, just on that conversation we were talking about who's going to get traded for the Canucks, I think most people would probably say Besser or Schenn. Do you disagree with that? Or do you have another name?
Besser and Schenn. Yeah, I think Schenn is just, it makes the most sense. I know he loves it in Vancouver, and I think Schenn is such a good guy that he would honestly stick it out there and see where this thing goes in the near future.
Yeah.
Especially if they gave him some certainty with this contract, which I don't know if Vancouver would want to do that right now, obviously.
Yeah.
But Brock Besser, we've been talking about that for months, right, John? It feels like even, this predates the pod. Like, this has been going on for years. That Brock Besser wants to change the scenery. So I think that one's got to happen. So I'd say both are very likely to happen before the deadline. I'll edge on Luke Schenn is the easier.
Yeah, it's just easier to make, for sure.
Yeah, so that one I'd definitely say is going to happen before the deadline, yeah.
I honestly do hope we get a shocker with Besser the same way we got with HORVAT here. I mean, within the last couple of days, HORVAT's been a conversation with the Islanders a little bit, but I'd want a shocker with Besser because I feel like people have been tying Besser to, like, the Wild forever just because of the hometown thing. Like, I feel like as hockey fans, that's the easiest thing you can do. You can just, I mean, I do it myself. I look at where a guy's from when I'm talking trade rumors and I go, it could be a fit there. And people have tried to connect Besser there for a while. So